I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
And that's what did we name him? Shiny?
Yeah, and Ghosty.
Shiny and Ghosty.
Booby was there, but
they've made their return.
Our 1-year-old captured it.
The name of this song is a Daedalus, I believe, which is the father of Icarus. Right?
Yeah.
For tiny topical political commentary, you can hit us up at Middle America with Vin and Sori. There are multiple ways.
He's Vin. I'm Sori.
I'm Vincent.
Some people get that confused.
Really?
Like, who? Which one's Sori? Yes.
No.
Yes, they did just on that last debate. And that's not the only time it's happened.
No,
people will
at
say,
the
is
debate
that one?
they were saying, shout out to the big homie Bryce Aroni.
Bryce Aroni?
That nigga's mad as hell, bro. I just get right under his skin. Right under his skin. Like a splinter. Everybody else is like cool.
Yeah.
And then the one black, well, he's not really. I mean, he's obviously half black. But there's always some black on black crime. Where's the love, Bryce Aroni? Just because I won't let you kill little babies.
I thought he looked a little bit familiar, but I really couldn't place it. But he looked like he was like, what? When he like showed up, like he had a problem already. I'm like, oh, he must not have liked what you were saying earlier, although I didn't realize it was some history.
Yeah, he's a suppressor of truth and unrighteousness for sure.
Oh, goodness.
I love him though. Every time I sound like, oh, look at Bryce Aroni. Like, he's tight, bro. He's so angry.
Does it make him angry when you call him Bryce Aroni?
No, that's his name, Bryce Aroni.
He named himself Bryce Aroni?
I mean, it's a nickname. His name is Bryce, but it's Bryce Aroni. I used to know a kid named Bryce in the baseball team.
Bryce Aroni, the San Francisco.
Yeah, like he's playing on that word. I'm saying with the big homie,
Okay,
I immediately make him angry. It's so funny. We're in the discussion. He's like, I don't give a shit what you said.
Yeah, but I've seen you.
My nigga.
I've seen multiple people do that. All of a sudden, they just like come unglued.
Yeah. Shout out to the big homie. Speaking
Sometimes when we fight and I feel my eye like twitch, I'm like, oh, I'm getting like that. I'm getting crazy.
All right. We need to get into this. Daedalus, Icarus. If you want something reviewed or whatever, I'm not going to talk about it.
Links are in the description. Follow
Shout out to the big homie Bryce.
All right, this is for Ayo. Here we go. Shoot, I gotta say, that's extremely sad.
No. What was sad?
At the end, the way when the father, because it was from the father's perspective and what he was saying, like when his son, like, so you think to yourself, like, there's things that, you know, that you want for your kids as, by way of freedom. So for me, like, I'm like, oh, it's gonna be so cool when they get their licenses and, you know, stuff like that. But then you think to yourself, like, sometimes you encourage them to get their license, and it's the license that brings about a certain level of freedom that gets them into trouble. You know what I mean? Like, and this kind of, so this kind of reminded me of, like, so the father said at the beginning that this is the only life that his son had ever known, was being on that island. And so there's a sense in which the son doesn't know any better. It's like somebody who's blind. If they've never seen, it's not like, how can you crave sight that you've never had? So the father knew something other than that. So then it kind of makes you wonder, like, did the father create these wings because the father too was looking for, like, you know, like a parent that moves to another area and they say, well, I'm doing this for my kids, but it was really for themselves. And then it ends up being like you have to yank the kids from their friends, from their school, from their everything, but you're doing it for the kids, you know what I mean? Like, and then they're somewhere else, and then tragedy strikes at this new place, and then, so I don't know, like, it's just but the way that he, like, was singing that part at the end, when he was, like, saying that he was gonna hang up his wings and I'll never fly again, and the way that he cried out, oh God. Yeah. Oh man, I'll tell you what, if it wasn't for my belief in the sovereignty of God, I would be completely shipwrecked. Like, if I did something that caused Orion to get, Orion's our 1.5-year-old. Like we were walking around, I was walking him all around the house and stuff, and, well, the apartment, and we went down, and, like, he was stepping off the sidewalk and back onto the sidewalk. And when he was doing that, he was getting so much enjoyment from doing that, but at the same time I was thinking, maybe I shouldn't even let him do this. Like, maybe I'm creating a normal for him that shouldn't be normal, like stepping into the street. So, but I was right there with him, and it was just a step to him. But, like, if I did something without realizing that that was the catalyst by which danger and tragedy would strike for him, oh my word.
Yeah, I mean, Daedalus had a rough go of it. So apparently Daedalus, he invented and built the labyrinth for King Minos of Crete. But shortly after finishing it, King Minos had Daedalus imprisoned within the labyrinth.
Oh my gosh.
So it's like everything he does, everything he does keeps getting turned back on him, you know?
Yeah,
like,
but
so,
how do you not know your own way out of your own labyrinth?
Well, he imprisoned him. I don't know how he imprisoned. Maybe, you know. So, yeah, he's got it rough.
I just think that, like, oh my word, I can't imagine if something happened to one of my kids, and like there was someone that we knew, and the kid had gone outside to skateboard or play on his bike. I can't remember which one it was now, but the father was plowing the driveway, and the mom thought that it was going to be okay because the father was going to see him, or I really don't know what their logic was in the situation. The father didn't see him, backed right over him, and he was stuck underneath. It was horrible. I'm not even going to get into the details, but it was a really, really, really horrible, horrible situation. And, like, I don't know how you get out of a situation like that. Like, that tragedy bothered me for so long and still comes to my mind. You know, the father will, you know, on the kid's birthday go to the grave, and it's just the whole thing is so freaking tragic. And, like, there you could put blame, but putting blame isn't going to, you know how I'm like, there's always a bad guy. Like, I don't want to always think that there's a bad guy in a situation, but when I look at a situation like that, like, if I don't straighten out my mentality that there's always a bad guy and something happened to one of the kids, like, I would want to blame somebody. And, like, I wouldn't want that.
Life really changes for you once you become a parent.
It totally does. And the thing is, the more kids that you have, the more you realize, like, you can't. Like, I kept Sayla, like, in this freaking little box. You know what I mean? Like, she wasn't literally in a box. But she was, like, she was very sheltered. I was very much watching her. Like, everything was, you know, trying to make it optimal and stuff. And now, I have so many of them that I'm like, there's no way to...
And
like,
age ranges are...
And age ranges, yeah. And, like, as they're growing, it's like, you know, Dorian was outside. He's our oldest. He's 14. He was outside. He was talking to this boy, but the boy looked like a girl from far away because he had really, like, long hair and blonde and thin little frame. And I just thought he was talking to a girl. And I didn't like it one bit. And then I'm like, he's friggin' 14 years old. Of course he should be talking. Like, that's normal, like, for him to talk to some girls. You know what I mean? But I want to, like, Mom, no, you why don't you go play on the Xbox? You know what I mean? Like, but, I mean...
It's a very...
Kids need to grow up.
It's a crazy situation because my brother said, yo, Dorian's got a lot of patience. And I was like, yeah, cool, whatever. And then my brother was like, yeah, there's a bunch of kids around him, blah, blah, blah. And so then we ran into Dorian, he told me this story. One of his gay friend, and we're in a neighborhood full of Somalis, and, you know, shout out to Somalia, but they don't, you know, I mean, he's gay, and he's flamboyantly gay, apparently, and so they said something reckless to his gay friend.
Why?
What?
I don't think he's flamboyant. Like, have you talked to the boy?
I mean, he's obviously gay. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, he's obviously gay, but on top of that, I think that he has other, like...
I agree.
Issues. So then it's like, there's just so many reasons for the kids to be mean to him.
It's just him and his grandma.
Yeah.
So mom and dad aren't there for whatever reason. It's just him and grandma. He's gay. He's got other mental health issues. So these kids said something reckless to Dorian's gay friend. Then the grandma comes out with a baseball bat. They're threatening to do something to this kid. So Dorian gets in the middle of it, and it's him, Billy, and then this the gay kid. So it's three of them, and there's the whole neighborhood, basically. And Dorian gets in the middle.
Johan wasn't there?
Nah, Johan wasn't there. He was inside. If Johan was there. So Dorian, he gets in the middle, and there was like a little physical altercation. There was a pushing and punching or whatever, but it didn't really, you know, whatever. And Dorian...
The kid was calling Dorian names that, like for Dorian, like...
Yeah, Dorian's a very
his
big...
value system has to be in a certain place.
Public perception guy.
Yeah, and they were calling him these names that
but
I'm surprised he...
Dorian standing up made it so that him and the two kids could get away. So Dorian's like, all right, guys, let's take a walk. And all these kids are following him, saying all this craziness to him. And, you know, Dorian's working out, and, you know, he's like, he said, I spared them, he says. And he did.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's not somebody that wants to get in a physical... He's not looking for a physical altercation. Nope. But he's also not looking for you to insult him publicly.
Johan is looking...
Yeah, Johan
enjoys physical altercation. He loves that shit.
So it'd be like close to Halloween.
Somebody said something reckless.
That lady's gonna be a witch. He'd be, you call her a bitch?
Yeah, somebody said something reckless to Zoe.
No, we just said witch.
Yeah, somebody said something reckless to Zoe, and Johan immediately just went in two pieces. Pow!
Saw the whole thing from the window.
So like... So Dorian's explained this to me, and then he goes, yeah, I spared him, because that's how Dorian talks, like, and, you know, I've tussled around with Dorian. He's a strong kid, and he, yeah, I mean...
He just doesn't usually use it.
You know, it's the traditional
like
toughen him up thing, and he you know, and he could have went off on the dude, but he didn't. And it was like, very, very proud moment for me. Very proud moment for me. You know, I put it up on, you know, Facebook or whatever. I was extremely proud of him.
You should have seen him when the kid showed up 2 days ago. That the boy that was getting made fun of.
Yeah.
So he shows up to the door. It was really cute. I was like, God, COVID, because it always gets in my head. So the kid shows up to the door, and Dorian, he was really. I had messaged you and said, hey, Dorian wants to come up to the office when you're able to chat with him, and so the kid was at the door. Dorian opens the door. He's like, hey, buddy, how are you doing? He's like, how are you doing? You're all right now? Is everything okay? It was just really, really cute because he was concerned that the kid had showed up because he was in trouble again with those other kids. And so he went out there to talk with him, and I told him, he was like, well, he really wanted to get up and spend some time with you, but because that kid showed up, like he sacrificed that time to go out there and spend with that kid, which is huge for Dorian because, like, obviously, like, you guys know how we are. Like, we don't have any hatred or anything toward the gay community. If we have any negative feelings, it's toward the Christian community with how they've treated the gay community. And but Dorian has not always been like that. He had some extremely negative thoughts and feelings toward that community. I don't even know where he got that from.
He was a complete homophobe.
Because literally, we're not like that, and his mom's not like that.
Nope.
So I don't even know where that came from, but he's he since has
but he like did everything that I taught him to do and to be as a man. Like, first plank is to love everybody, gay, straight, I don't care, we're gonna love everybody. That's number one. It doesn't matter if they're gay or not or whatever. 2 is you always get on the side of the underdog. Always. Don't let people go after people. Like, don't do that. You have to get in the middle of it. Don't mind your own business when there's 15 people on one person. You cannot mind your own business.
I've literally never seen that. I'm sorry, I gotta interrupt again. There was this episode on Little House on the Prairie that we used to watch, and there was one kid that was getting picked on, and he was talking about how chickens will do the same thing. Like, they'll find one that they start picking on, and like all of them will just pick at this one until they'll literally peck him to death.
Yeah.
It's very disgusting. I don't even like thinking about it. But like, when I've never seen this many kids basically in our backyard. It's, you know, there were so many of them.
It's a gut check moment about your character, you know. And
if that happened to one of our kids and all those kids are gone.
So I you know, these are all the things that I taught him, you know, as a man, as a Christian man. This is what we do. You don't mind your business when that's happening, and you don't pull out your cell phone and record the shit happening. Like, get in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So he did it, and I was so proud of him. But then I'm like, and Dorian is, he's not an aggressive person. He's actually more big about self-preservation. Yeah. And he's not a lover of LGBT people. He hates them.
Right.
And so, like, it was completely the opposite of everything. And, you know, as a parent, like, you teach kids stuff, and you're like, man, are they getting it? But here's the thing. Very proud of him, cool moment, and then I'm thinking to myself, fuck. What if one of those kids had a knife? One of those kids, yada, yada, yada. So he's doing what I told him to do, and he ends up losing his life, or he ends up severely injured because he's following what I said to do. And it's weird, like, I've put myself in dangerous situations for the sake of the underdog, yada, yada, yada. But I'm never worried, I'm never afraid for myself, and I'm you know, I've made peace with, you know, whatever. But when it's your kid, it's like, whoa. So that was a real, like, it was a bittersweet moment, man, because it was like, it's a tough thing to think about, you know, as far as, like, you know, your kids, and there's so many, you know, just being a young black youth, especially Dorian, because he's probably going to hit 6'1", 6'2" by the time this is all over. And it's like, I send him to the store, I'm scared to death he's going to get ensconced by police. But on the other hand, he's in a group of mostly black folks, and statistically speaking, he's much more likely to get killed by one of our own people than so it's just like,
my gosh,
having a young black child who you're trying to raise with that degree of integrity and things of that nature is like, it's a scary thing, man. And, you know, a lot of it is like, there's a huge part of me that just wants to, like, encompass all of them and keep them at this age, and, you know, keep them here and, you know, enjoy the moments. And but you can't, you know, like, one of the most significant things I've ever heard in my life was Jordan Peter. He's got the Cain and Abel series that he did, and it was unbelievable. But he was specifically talking, there was some, I don't know how it correlated between the Cain and Abel story, but he was talking about Michelangelo's Pietà. I don't know if I can show you the picture, but the Pietà, you know, you've seen that one where Mary's holding the dead body. Here it is. Like, and he was talking about that was the greatest work of art ever. Blah. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, it's a good skull. Like, what? And he was talking about how it is the job of the mother to offer up her son to the world to be sacrificed. And so Mary is the archetypical Mary is the archetypical mother, and Jesus is the archetypical son, obviously. who encompasses that truth. But when your child is young, you shelter them, you protect them from all harm, and a lot of your job as a mother is to progressively expose your kid to crucifixion. And so, and it was so complex. I wish people would listen to what Peterson's saying instead of being so offended by him, because he was talking about how the uniqueness of the Christian message, because in the sacrifice of Christ, you have all degrees of sacrifice at the pinnacle of human sacrifice possible. So like one would be allowing yourself to be killed for the sake of your friends. So that's self. And then he talked about there's another level though, because he said the Christians have this Trinity thing. And so God the Father is sacrificing his son. And he was talking about that is another degree of sacrifice, is the losing of a child, which is a deeper pain than the losing of one's own life. And so he was talking about God the Father in heaven watching his son being crucified. Then he talks about Mary having to deal with the fallout after the death of her son, and how like the Christian gospel encompasses all of these the most severe losses.
Yeah.
And somehow he probably Cain and Abel probably having to do with Abel.
And then there's a sense in which, yes, Jesus was dying for his friends. It says, greater love has no one than this, that he laid down his life for his friends.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it says that we were enemies of God.
Yeah.
And that he, basically, he loved us before we loved him.
Right.
And so he died for enemies too. And I know, as a mom, if Dorian was doing that because he was trying to protect that kid that he loves, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if it was all just...
The analogy would be he dies for one of those 15...
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's significantly more difficult. I was giving Orion a bath. He ended up getting sick in the car. He threw up, and then I put him in the tub, and I was washing him all up and taking care of him, and then I heard a ambulance siren outside, and he stopped playing, and it was super faint. I didn't even think that he would hear it because it was so faint. He stopped and he looked at the window, and in that moment, I was like, I'm so glad that it's not my kid that is hurt right now. And then I felt so bad for thinking that, because that ambulance was for somebody, so somebody's kid was in danger, and I was glad that mine was safe in the tub. And then I just started thinking man, being a mom and loving your kid to the degree that you do is ugh.
It's a very scary feeling.
Mm-hmm. I think this picture, actually, this statue, I think is more her face.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a crazy concept when you're a parent, and it's your job is to work yourself into obsolescence. Your kids aren't supposed to, need you for safety and protection, and, but it's man, the idea of sending them out into the world is to be crucified. Mm-hmm. It's we said on that show. I said, there's no way you're gonna hang around for 10, 15, 20, 25 years in a fallen world and not... Everybody leaves here
scarred, yeah,
and broken. And it's man. And then and he was transitioning to the whole Oedipal complex, where the mother basically, creates a necessity for herself so her kid will never grow up and whatever. And to your point, it's oh, I'm doing this for you, but in reality, it's the mother doesn't want to deal with the pain of A, the separation of the child, but B, the child going out into a crucifixion. And that's what it is to live in this world. So that was such a crazy talk from Jordan Peterson to me, and it's a hard thing, Dorian did that. I'm okay, there were times when I did that. Well, it wasn't really downtrodden people, but my friends in the the Bronx, somebody was getting jumped or whatever. It's not even a virtue. It's just street code, right? Mm-hmm. Just and I remember one time I came home and I was pretty messed up. My mom was like, "What happened?" I was like, "Oh, Mom, don't worry about it, blah, blah, blah." And I was, it was a small apartment, so I couldn't get away. But she was like, "What is going on?" I was, I never talked to her about it. I mean, she kept interrogating me, but I was You know, like...
Oh my word. Your freaking silence sometimes can be so...
I wasn't gonna lie to her. But
like, if one of the kids came home all bloody, I mean...
I wasn't bloody, it's just I had a, pretty big black eye. And
if one of the kids showed up like that, would you accept silence as the answer?
She said, she's like, you've got head injuries. Like, I was like, yeah, I'm just tired, I'm gonna take a nap. She's like, no, you're not going to sleep. You know, my mom's a nurse.
Yeah.
And I just said to myself, like, I could never be in this situation again with her because she's too, whatever. And prior to that, I was really against weapons. I was against, I was like, oh, we can square up with everybody, blah, blah, blah. But for me, it was like, all right, I'm not, because she was very, 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 very stressed, and she was trying, but she knew she wasn't going to get anything out of it. Like she knew. So it was just, now as a parent, I understand how hard that must have been for her. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And then I can't imagine being a mom and doing that. And, I was 14, Dorian's age or whatever. Like, she couldn't tell me anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, what was she going to tell me? Like, I was already past the point where, was she going to spank me? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was just in this giant, whatever. So.
And you were the type, like, if she said, look, if you keep that up, you're out, you'd be like, all right, I'm out now.
Yeah.
Like, Dorian's not like that. Dorian's not trying to, you know what I mean? Like.
So, and we would have those conflicts, my mom and I, in the Bronx. She'd be like, if you're late, don't come home. I said, what? She said, don't come home.
That's what I mean.
I said, roger that. And I didn't come home. And that happened a couple times, and she, she would yell and scream at me, blah, blah, blah. And then,
she had a tough job.
Me and Reef would really laugh, because she would come back later and be like, it's because I love you. And we just thought that was the biggest joke. Like, oh, okay. Like, she went
really?
crazy. Yeah, Mr. Man had to hold her back and all this. Like, she wanted to kill me. I'm like, you were the one that told me not to come back. She's like, no, you idiot. Me tell you to come upon the curfew.
I told you to come at the curfew.
Which is true. She didn't tell me to stay where I was. She told me to be in by curfew or whatever. But yeah, I made life. You don't understand when you're a kid.
Do you think that things would have been different if Mr. Man would have got more involved in your parenting?
100%. Like if he would have been like a male.
He was all that nacho shit.
I just think my mother is really hard. The long conversations we have to have. Like a lot of people, they don't want to have those conversations. Blended families. So my mom was very protective of us. She didn't want anybody saying anything to us, even if we were wrong. Like she didn't. So that would have been hell to pay for him. You know what I'm saying? Like he would have.
Yeah.
So I don't really fault him for that, but yeah, if I would have had like a strong male figure in my life, like and my older brother was a strong male figure, but at the time I perceived him to be soft because he wouldn't, he never got in fights, he never whatever. So I thought, I was like, hey, this dude is soft, man. He's gonna. Yeah, he went there all 4 years, not one single altercation, not one. And my dumb ass gets there, and I can't even get out of the first semester without,
I mean, I'm glad that the child, that the only child that brought into this relationship was a girl. Yeah. Because the way you parent girls and the way you parent boys is different. Like today with Orion, we asked him to throw his diaper away. He totally knows how to do that. He refused to throw his diaper away. He cried and yelled. I was like, baby, he's tired. Let's just play blocks with him. And he was like, no. And so he waits. And Orion probably cried for what, 5 minutes?
Mm-hmm. Threw himself down on the ground.
Threw himself on the floor, all kinds of very big drama. And then he stopped crying. He looked around. He got up. He picked up his diaper and he threw it in the trash. And then we played blocks together.
Well, he ran straight to you and hugged your leg. Because he knew that it was... You don't remember that? He threw his thing in the trash and we were like, yeah,
oh, yeah, and then he buried his face.
And he ran right to you and buried it, that mean man over there wouldn't give me what I wanted.
Well, I mean, he read me right.
He absolutely did.
I thought, oh, he's too tired and he's probably too little. Maybe he doesn't understand. He knew clearly what was supposed to take place. But anyway,
He's a very strong old kid.
He is, and I just don't think that. But like, if I had brought him into the relationship and you weren't his father, then I would have a really hard time with you setting that line with him and being like, no, we're not playing blocks until.
Oh yeah, I know you would. You have a hard enough time with Orion.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. I understand. But at the same time, like, that's how you're supposed to be. My mom was not able to be that soft, you know, feminine figure because she had to double time because my dad wasn't there. You know what I'm saying? So I don't resent you for that. But at the same time, it's like, I also know that if I don't step in and intervene, this kid's going to be a disaster. And especially the fact that he's going to be so attractive. That's a horrible combination of pathologies for, you know what I'm saying? So,
Oh, yeah.
So, but yeah, like, you teach your kids the best you can, and then you know, there's this movie about, I think it's Steve Carell is the star, but there's this movie about this dad and his son is on drugs or whatever, and that whole battle, I won't even watch it.
Yeah, I know.
I won't even watch it because being a parent, because he says it in the song, like, hey, you're flying too close, yada, yada, yada. Being a parent, you have the experience,
Yeah.
you can see two moves down the line.
It literally said, like, they're coming undone. Won't you look at your wings? They're
Right.
coming undone, spreading at the seams.
Right.
Stay clear of the sun. For once, won't you listen to me?
Right.
Like, that feeling as
Yeah.
a parent where it's like...
I can't even watch that movie. So, yeah, like, the knowing what's going to happen 2 steps down the line, because you've had the experience, or you've been around people who had that negative experience, but you can't tell a person who hasn't had that. And I say all the time to kids, like, I wish you guys would learn from wisdom rather than experience.
I know, but they're the same as you, just like I was. There are some things that you will learn from wisdom, and there are a heck of a lot of things that you will only learn through experience.
Yeah, if you make it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's
But that's
a hard
like,
thing.
when you look at Proverbs and it talks about, you know, wisdom and the fool versus the wise man and stuff like that. The wise man can learn from somebody else's experiences.
100%.
If we have to every single generation relearn, well, we would have never...
No progress.
Yeah,
Right.
There's no progress. But if you can learn from the previous generations, then you can take a wheel and create an automobile. But if you can't, then you're going to have to keep recreating the wheel. And I think that, you know, it just depends on the kids, the kid themselves. And some, you know, it's so funny to see, like, what they think is... Like, there's some stuff where I'm like, you can't be serious.
Said, like, I told myself that.
That is his big thing. I'm like, who told you that was a good idea? And then he'll be like, well, I was thinking about it and it seemed like a good... I'm pretty sure that's still one of the public videos on my Sori. Remember when he did that with the drain?
Oh, yeah.
But it seemed a good idea to him, so he went ahead and did it.
I told myself that. And it makes complete
He doesn't say those words anymore because I brought it up so many times.
Yeah.
Now whenever he does something, I'm like, you told yourself that, huh? He'll be like, no, I didn't.
Oh, Johan has matured
Yeah.
a lot in the last 6 months, but yeah. So I told myself that. So, hey, I'm just going to do it. What can you do? You know,
I was surprised that he was even honest enough to say that.
I mean, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think most people would be like, well, it's probably not a good idea if I say I influenced my own.
But again, this is a consequence of my style of parenting, which is this whole democratic and they get to have a voice and they're not going to get shot down because they voice a competing view, like, you know. But at the same time, it's like that type of freedom and autonomy in the hands of a child is almost certainly going to be abused. So you know, it's
They all have abused it.
and that's why I say, like, you've got a more rigid style, and that's why I said, like, bring the rigidity there. You know what I'm saying? Because then we'll have a balance. You don't have to parent like me. But yeah, it's tough. But again, I do that. I teach them that way because
I have been doing that more with them. Like, there's less debate and less argument over stuff.
Yeah,
I just say, I'm not talking about it.
Yeah.
I'm literally not talking about it with you. Okay?
Right.
I told you to do your chores, and you didn't do them. You swept that shit under the carpet instead of sweeping it up.
Literally, yeah. No, literally.
That is literally.
That's literally what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like,
Yeah, but I'm learning to do things for my own, like, mental well-being. Like, for instance, you know, like, one of the kids, a couple times when the kids go to their mom's house, they'll start their load of laundry and then leave it there, knowing full well that I'm not gonna just leave it there, because I need it to do laundry. So I'm gonna move it for them, I'm gonna do all the work for them, but then everybody this week left their chores undone. So I saw that stuff in the washing machine, I pulled it out and just stuck it on the pile of dirty laundry. Fish it out when you get back. It's gonna be smelly, you're gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah.
But you know what, when I was babysitting, when I was a teenager, I used to babysit the kids, bring an art project, make sure the house was picked up while I was there. And then if they had dishes perhaps in the sink when they left, I just took care of the dishes for them. Each time that I would come, there was more and more and more and more dishes. And I started getting so frustrated with that because I'm like, this is ridiculous. And so I remember talking to my dad and being like, Dad, like literally there's so many dishes, I'm having a hard time to do the art project and play with the kids because I'm just taking care of the house cleaning. He's like, leave them. I'm like, what? That was like never, my father was always like, do 1000% on everything. He was like, leave them. I said, leave them? He said, yeah, leave them. That's right, left them once, they were never there again.
What do you get the song?
Oh, you know, I liked this one better than the other one because 100%. It was way more like it had that deeper emotional feeling, plus obviously more relatable because I'm a parent. Not so much a child anymore, so probably 9.4.
Yeah, this song, it's funny, like, to me, I'm like, this song is much better than the other song, but that's because it's coming from the perspective of a father.
Right.
And it's coming from the perspective of a son. Although the melodies here were a little bit more, yeah, so it's a solid 9.2. I love this song, very good song. I'll probably never listen to it again, though.
I don't know, I think that I do think would be a good, thing to do in school with the kids where they listen to both songs and having them give their perspectives because they're extremely opinionated kids.
Yeah,
I think we get some interesting
I think we should actually
insights.
read the actual story and then put on the songs.
Yeah.
All right. There you go. There you go. Vin out.
Thanks, Ao. Sorry, out.
Gone.